Hi everyone, welcome back to the Lightworkers. Today we have Rudrāni back on our show, and today she'll be talking about her upcoming new course, and then we are planning on diving deeper into what yoga is and different aspects of yoga. So I'm super excited. And welcome back, Rudrāni. How are you?
Thank you, Anisha. I'm good. I hope you are well too.
Yes, yes. And I'm very excited to talk about your new course. So why don't we just dive deep into, what it is, and it's called Purna Midam, right? And like what does it mean and how did you come up with it?
Okay. So Purnamidam, the name means that this is complete. Okay. So this would mean this person or this being is complete in himself or herself.
Mm,
And basically that is yoga in a nutshell. Okay,
yeah.
so when we say we are practicing yoga or we are doing yoga is not even a usage, but then that's what is gotten into the modern dictionary these days, because
Yeah.
it's all about doing always. It's all about doing some stuff with the physical body. All right.
Mm,
Whereas in yoga, yoga is a philosophy, and in yoga, the doing bit of it, the body, the physical body is one of the 8 limbs of yoga or one of the 8 branches of yoga.
mm,
Okay, so when we say Purnamidam, that is about making this journey towards the self, towards the essence that is you, and then finding that in spite of everything that you have gone through in terms of troubles and suffering and all, you are perfect, you are complete. And you can have glimpses of this completeness in the beginning, but with sustained practice, you can make that your reality.
mm,
Okay. And this course is about uh, the practice pathways that I have in my personal life gleaned out of all these practices and put together, and I use them as a support, or not exactly as a support, but I use them together with trauma healing tools.
mm,
And the clients that I have worked with, I have seen that this is a more effective and potent tool, and a faster one and a more sustaining one to take them to complete healing.
mm.
Okay.
Right.
And these have been gleaned from studying these scriptures, these texts that come from India, from the eastern part of the world, and putting together tools and using them for myself and then for my clients. So I thought it's
Mm,
about time that I put them together and present it to whomsoever who wants to, one, learn these tools as therapists or as people who are working with other clients, and also for people who are ready to go on a spiritual path and, so to speak, find themselves.
right. So what is the spiritual path that one takes when one delves deeper into yoga? Like you said, there are 8 branches. So then apart from your course and generally even in when people start practicing yoga, what does it mean? And like what are the different aspects of it that one goes through?
Yeah, so let me just take one step back from there. Yoga is one of the 6 darshanas that have come out of India. And when you
Mm,
say darshana, for lack of a better word, we say philosophy in English. But darshana
okay.
itself, when translated, means vision or insight.
Mm,
And vision to what, or vision about what? This is vision about your existence. It's like your complete living. Okay.
mm,
So, though these are translated as philosophies, it's more than philosophy.
mm.
Okay, it's like a manual for existence. And what kind of existence? An existence which will keep you free from suffering, and an existence which will keep you continuously on a path of evolution. Okay, so those are the darshanas that have come out of India, and they are 6 in number. These are the Vedic darshanas, 6 in number, and
Okay.
yoga is the second of that. So the 6 darshanas are Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. Okay, these are the 6
Okay.
darshanas. And in the last decade and a half, I was fortunate to study a few of these. Okay, and there are clear and concise practice pathways when it comes to how do I behave with a fellow human being? How do I exist in the world in harmony with the rest of the creation? And how do I conduct my work, like the karma,
Mm.
the work that I do? And how do I position myself when it comes to the fruits of that work? And how do I serve? When do I serve? When it comes to a fellow human being who is suffering, how much can I do? What do I
Mm.
do? And when do I say that this is beyond me? Or when do
Right.
I say that this is not the right time for me to intervene? So it's basically a bunch of practices which gives you tools for all aspects of existence.
Mm.
Okay, so, and all these darshanas, all the 6 of them do that. And I have kind of, through my practice, worked with yoga, Sankhya, Nyaya, and Vedanta. All right.
Okay.
And picked up tools from there. So for me, how it comes together in the field of trauma healing is, um, if I could kind of lead you through an example. Okay, so
Yeah.
especially, I mean, I'm talking here mainly for the healers who would be listening. Let us take an example of, let's say, a young man. I mean, I'll take it in a story format. Okay, so let's say a young man who comes to you and he has problems with connecting with people. Okay, and he has anxiety issues, and he has these deep issues when it comes to any kind of connections. All right.
Mm.
And
Mm.
when you take him on an inner child journey, you find that um, the issue stems from how his father was. Okay. His
Mm.
father was not very emotive, and he could not really show that he loved his son. And the only showing of the emotion came from providing for him. All right. But
Right.
never really nurturing the skills in the son or showing him that he's there for him and taking him out and doing stuff with him. None of those things happened. All right. But he was
Mm.
provided for. And then he grows up into this person who has problems with showing emotions. Okay.
Mm.
And then there is, when you explore deeper, of course, you take him on an inner child journey, you heal this, and you show him as to why the father is this way. And when you go further into the story, you find out that while he was growing up, he had a friend. And that friend had a father, though that family was much probably poorer than this one. The father and
Mm.
son, they had a very strong and intimate connection. And these two boys, they were in competitive sports together. And he found that that father would be present there for all the sports and for everywhere. And
Mm.
then in this boy's mind, that is what he wanted. Okay.
Mm.
He comes
Mm.
back, and while he was experiencing that in that other family, he experienced in him a sense of happiness, sense of appreciation, sense of being cared for, protection, love, expansiveness, everything he experienced there in that relationship. And by
Right.
virtue of him being welcome in that household, he experienced this as a spillover from his friend, from his friend's
Mm.
life. Now he saw it as a child, he saw it, this experience of fullness in him coming from this entity called the father. Okay.
Hmm.
Nevertheless, father of his friend.
Right.
So he comes back home and he searches for the same thing in his father and he doesn't find it there. And
Hmm.
as he grows older, he decides to leave home. He goes to some other place and he
Hmm.
is perpetually in search of a father figure in his life. And whenever he is in contact with or he is nurtured by an older person, an older mentor, especially a male mentor, he experiences the same kind of love and happiness and expansiveness and everything else. Okay. So he thinks this comes from the father figure, or rather, that's what he understands of the whole situation, because suddenly whatever he felt in his childhood, that is fulfilled here. But this will not last because this is not a father. But the young man kind of has a relationship with a young woman and he experiences the same fullness in that relationship, right? So now we are going to use something called a discriminative inquiry here, which is the core practice of spirituality that we are talking about. The experience he felt, the experience of happiness, love, fullness, expansiveness, whatever, that package, he felt it came from a father figure. But he had the same experience with a partner.
Right.
So the subject does not matter. Or rather, the object does not matter. The experience
Hmm.
is.
Man, that matters.
Now,
Hmm.
when you do trauma healing, you are taking him back to his father and saying that, yes, you did not get that, but now you are a young man. You do not need a father, but we can go back and complete that process of receiving by what
Hmm.
we call as the interrupted outreach movement. You did that,
Hmm.
right? That
Hmm.
is where
Hmm.
trauma healing ends. And then you give him a bunch of practices to solidify that interrupted outreach. But when it comes to spiritual healing, you come and you
Hmm.
say, okay, so you had this experience. Now, the object from which the source from this experience flow was your mentor, which was the father figure, but then it was also your partner, which was your romantic interest. Now, both of them gave you that experience. The object does not matter. The experience is the same.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, let us go deeper into the experience and see what about this experience is that makes you feel full. So, you cut through layers of yourself and reach a point where you see that why does this experience matter to me so much?
Hmm.
Where is that connection? So as you go deeper, doing this process of discriminative inquiry, you reach the essence of yourself, okay,
Hmm.
called the soul. And then you see that the soul, if it has to express its highest nature, then all the things that we enumerated as the package of experience is the nature of your own soul. So the object does not matter. And then you find that the experience also does not really matter when it comes between two people.
Hmm.
What matters is
Hmm.
you have found the eternal source of that experience within yourself. Okay.
Hmm.
And when you do an interrupted outreach, now you can say that, hey, the source is within me. So I'm going to allow this source to fulfill me. So through a bunch of
Hmm.
practices, we pick up this fulfillment from within us, and then we are ready to connect with like-minded spirits or people with whom we can
Hmm.
replicate this experience. So these interactions then will never be coming from a space of lack. It will always be coming from a space of fullness because you have finally reached the eternal source of that experience, which is within you.
So, Rudrani, how do you connect? So, this is, I think you talked about trauma therapy and yoga together.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. I was just wanting to understand more of how yoga helps us connect with the eternal source, and then also for us, then how, what's the future for this man? Like, I mean, I understand that there'll be fullness and, but how do you keep, like, how do you maximize this experience? I mean, does that
See,
make sense? Yeah.
so I'll answer the last question first because we are in that thread. See,
Yeah.
for this person now, the he has found the source within himself, right? So
Mm.
everything that we do in terms of manifestation, in terms of relationships, in terms of behavior,
Mm.
there are tools for keeping within the parameters of this experience. And
Mm.
so you will not again fall into that trap, so to speak, of
Yeah.
anxiety, of feeling that lack, none of that, because you know that the source is within you and you have tools to reach there. The
Reach
tool
there.
is what the course will give you.
Ah. Mm.
Okay. And to answer the first question that you asked, how does yoga help us? So yoga, just taking yoga, I'm not even taking the other darshanas here, just taking yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga, it is in a landscape form which allows you to touch every part of your existence. And it's
Mm.
also in a linear form which allows you to move from the external to the internal, meaning it allows you to start with your external behavior or relationships, not only with people, with any being, and also as a being on the planet. So within the 8 limbs, we have practices for each one of these.
Mm.
The 8 limbs of yoga are yama, niyama, asana. Okay. Asana is what you know as this external practice of yoga. That comes
Yeah.
third because that is about your body. Even before
Mm.
coming to your body, there are a couple of other things, which is how do you interact with a fellow human being and how do you interact with the world. So yamas and niyamas help you with your behavior. So behavioral sciences and behavioral therapy is included right there. Okay. And then
Mm.
it comes to the physical, your physicality, your body, and then comes your breath. Breath is treated as this amazing connector which can be charged with whatever goodness that you want in this whole yoga practice. Okay, so
Mm.
pranayama is the 4th limb,
Oh,
which
pranayama. Yeah. Got it.
pranayama, which is the breath, and then comes something called pratyahara, which is taking all your senses inward. Why do you take your senses inward? Because, like I said in the beginning, the source is within you. So if you know how
Mm.
to connect well and deep with yourself, you will know how to connect with the world.
Mm.
Okay. And then comes the last 3 limbs, which is dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Dharana is concentration, dhyana is meditation, samadhi is absorption. Okay. And concentration, meditation, and absorption on what? On your inner self, on your essence. And then in samadhi also, there are several layers which will help you deepen this connection or deepen this absorption within your own essence.
Mm.
And
Rudrāni,
right
what?
this
Sorry.
side,
Huh.
I'll finish
Mm.
this, like just
Yeah.
one more sentence. Right at the other side lies the
Mm.
fact that the essence of you is the highest of your humanity, which is equal to divinity. So that's where you are connected to the eternal source.
And that's in samadhi or after samadhi?
That's in samadhi. That's the absorption.
That's the absorption. And then what's the difference between concentration and meditation?
When it comes to concentration, it is that meditation is not an active practice. Meditation is the state of being. To reach that state of being, you have to keep your focus within yourself. That is the concentration practice. Okay, so
Okay.
when you're going through a guided meditation, let us say, you
Mm.
are in a space where everything is quiet around you. you are in a space that you like to sit in, and you're not really kind of sitting in the kitchen of the house or no, some place where there is a lot of hustle and noise going around. So you have these things set. That
Okay.
helps you concentrate. Okay. And the guided meditation is not really meditation. It's a concentration practice where they are keeping you concentrated either on your breath or within yourself or witnessing your thoughts. That is a layer of concentration happening right there. And once you get used to this, you can just be in that state of stillness, in that is your being, that state of stillness. That's where meditation begins. Meditation is not really active. It is being. It's not active, not passive. It's just being.
Can you talk a little more about, I mean, when you say it's a way of being, can one be like that throughout the day in their lives? And then how does that work?
In our life, when we have so much to do, so many different types of interactions and transactions that is happening in our life, we can approach all of these from that place of being still. But we keep
Yeah.
okay, so to answer that question, like this, the place of being, yes, that meditative space can be a continuum, but the more you are interacting with the world, you are letting go of that stillness. But having said that, you can always reconnect. The more you have a practice of meditation, you can always reconnect to that space of stillness and reconnect with your highest nature and carry forward all your activities, being in that highest nature.
So, Rudhrani, is there a practice that one needs to go through, say, every day or in a sustained way in order to maintain, these different limbs that you're talking about, practicing them? Or how do you inculcate this in your life and how do you maintain that stability?
Yeah, see, the more you see all this, like the asana, the pranayama, the all the limbs, in fact, all the first 5 ones is towards achieving meditation and samadhi. It's taking you there slowly.
Oh,
Okay?
okay.
Like if you look at like at
So
a
it's
physical,
progressive. Yeah.
yeah. So
Hmm.
like I said, it is going from the external towards the internal, but it also takes you on a complete landscape of your existence.
Mm,
Okay, it gives you a bunch of observances and restraints. Do not do this, do not do that. Like you've heard of ahimsa, right? Non-violence. So non-violence, when you hear the word ahimsa, it is non-violence towards any fellow human being or any creation. But that
mm,
non-violence pretty much also applies to yourself. All
mm,
right, so be non-violent to yourself. Do not do
mm,
anything that once you know the nature of yourself, the highest nature of yourself, you better not do anything that can stand in the way of a quick reclamation or quick going back to yourself.
mm,
All right. And you will know that, the more the various kinds of interactions that we have with the world, there will be instances when we are forced to let go of that peace and niceness that you feel inside of you. Then
mm,
there are practices given to us which say, in case such a thing happens, this is what you do. This is your behavior.
mm,
Okay, so
mm.
it's like proper structured way in which how do you handle these various aspects of your life.
Rudhani, obviously, I want you to talk a little bit about all the eight limbs, even just one-liners. But before we go there, since we already talked about concentration, meditation, and samadhi, do you want to tell us what exactly samadhi is? Is it the end of one's life, or is it something within us that we can reach anytime and,
That's
after
like
that?
question, because the word samadhi also kind of gets interpreted as the end of one's life. Okay.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
samadhi that we are talking about here is not the end of life, but
Mm-hmm.
it's the end of suffering. Okay.
Mm,
So it
mm.
is something that you can reach anytime. And then there are various levels of samadhi. Okay. So
Oh,
samadhi just means absorption into your essence or into yourself. Okay.
okay.
We
Mm.
can live our life with that absorption. And then there are
Okay.
several levels or several layers of absorption. The last one or the final one would be where you say that I'm so absorbed in my own self and I have found everything that I'm looking for that I do not feel anymore. I do not need anymore to interact with this world. Okay. And
Mm.
when you reach there, then you go to the Himalayas.
Right, right. So there is this one thing that I recently read, the book that you referred to me, Bhagavad Gita by Chinmaya.
Swami Chinmayananda. Yeah.
So, yeah. So something around karma yoga, right? That I was reading. So a person who is also in this world, doing all of it, and also is craving for that spiritual nourishment. Is it possible for them to then reach that, say, last layer of samadhi and also be able to live without going to the Himalayas?
Yeah, see that is what I would aspire for as a person. Okay.
Okay.
So,
Mm.
but then karma yoga in itself cannot be the end of this practice. So, if you go deeper into Bhagavad Gita, Arjun is prodded into karma yoga through a bunch of knowledge that is being given to him by Lord Krishna. Okay.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that knowledge is called Jnana Yoga.
Okay.
That jnana or understanding or knowing would be the ideal end of the practice. That is where the
Okay.
practice takes you to. Now, karma yoga is that do your work from a place of that knowing.
Mm.
And what is that knowing? That, if you go through the dilemma of Arjuna, that's how it opens up, right? The book opens up, Bhagavad Gita.
Mm.
Dilemma is that he is asked to kill in war his teachers, his elders, his cousins, and everybody, the clan, right? And he says he cannot do it. And the whole movement that you see in Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna despondently sitting down saying he won't do it, and then Krishna making him understand as to why he should do it.
Mm.
And it
Right.
moves, and the whole Gita is Arjun's movement from a man to a god man.
Mm.
Okay. And he kills everybody, and
Mm.
they win the war, and Lord Krishna establishes justice in the world, and Arjuna is not condemned for the killing because that
Mm.
was his karma. And to do
Mm.
that with God as the center was the whole Bhagavad Gita. So that is the beauty of Gita. It is like yoga right there in your karma bhumi is what Gita tells you how to do that.
Mm. So, Rudrāni, you talked about Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga. How many other different types of these are not the limbs.
No, these are not the limbs. These are like four parts of or four types of yoga. They say it is karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, and there's one more. But then it is karma yoga and jnana yoga that we mainly work with. When we are
Okay.
bhakti is like what all those rituals and all those stuff. But
Mm.
that's just an entry point. Why we do that?
Mm.
Because we do not know that the true essence lie within us. We look at it
Oh.
we look at it outside or we look for it outside. That is why we start with bhakti. When you reach that inside of you, you can drop the bhakti because you do not need to externalize it. You can internalize it. That's where you should be
Mm.
reaching. And that is
Mm.
when Jnana Yoga starts.
So Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga is something that one can't let go of. They have to go through it. Is that what you're saying? But Bhakti Yoga, they can if they
Yeah.
find another way to reach within. Okay. Hmm. And when you say karma yoga, do you mean that living a certain way, the way yoga has written or talked about, or or people just flow with what they know, right? I mean, my question is, how does one follow the path of that, if there is a true path of karma yoga or jnana yoga,
The path, like I told you, the 8 limbs covers all facets of your existence.
Mm,
Okay, so there, the way you eat, the way you sleep, how much you sleep or how much you should be sleeping, and what all are the practices that you should be doing, and how do you interact with people, how do you work, all those things are covered. So right here, doing whatever it is that we are doing, we can follow the practices of yoga.
so can we directly connect with the essence, like you said, and then not have to go through uh anything else? I mean, if that's what
Yeah,
the focus is.
yeah. See, we can, but then can you sit quietly, silently, without moving at one place for 45 minutes? Because we need that much time to let go of the body sensations and start with connecting with, with what we are
Hmm.
inside. Probably
Hmm.
not. So that's why you
Hmm.
need to discipline your body. All right.
Okay.
That
Hmm.
is that is the asana practice. Okay. And
Hmm.
when you sit down, and can you quieten your breath enough so that the breath does not get in the way of your practice? If you are a person, prone to anxiety attacks, the moment you close your eyes and you start slowing your breath down, you will feel that anxiety inside. So you
Ah.
need to practice with your breath a bit to harmonize
Hmm.
your breath, to regularize your breath, to make it subtle. That is your pranayama. So you have the limbs that way arranged in a manner that you are able to get that deeper connection.
Hmm.
And
And then, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, you go ahead. Yeah, please.
So is there a time span or like a minimum number of hours, minimum number of years a person should dedicate in order to, reach a certain level, or in your experience, or is there something written about it? How does that work in terms of
Not really.
timelines?
It's not really time bound, but it's more of a discipline.
Hmm.
Okay, so like I have a daily practice of asana, pranayama, and a bit of japa and meditation. Okay,
Hmm.
so japa is like chanting. So I have been initiated into a mantra chant, and I chant it on a daily basis. Okay,
Hmm.
so some days I do 1 hour of an asana practice. Some days I can do only 30-35 minutes. Some days I
Hmm.
do 4 rounds or 30 rounds of a pranayama practice. Some days I get time to do only 6 rounds. But the japa is something that I do daily. That is non-negotiable. Okay. And meditation
Hmm.
also, whenever I can, I sit down for a 25-30 minutes meditation. All right.
Hmm.
So it's that, okay, I have these disciplines, and on a good day, I do all of it. Now, when it is not a good day, it's a busy day, then I do some of it. But then there are some days you are so triggered
Hmm.
that you want to get back to your practice, because that is the only way for you to find that centering inside of you. So having this repertoire of practice, a bunch of them, is really good for you to have a quick reconnection with yourself.
Hmm.
Okay, so as a person, I do not need to reach out to anything external when I go through a trigger experience. Okay, I can come back to my practice. All I need is a place to sit down.
Hmm.
Okay, so and that's the beauty of this practice. And there are
Right.
so many texts available that it is it has been a beautiful experience for me to put it together as tools or practice pathways that I could share with my clients or with my students.
Hmm. Yeah. I want to go back to your course, and I have a few questions about that. But before that, just one question that really struck me, that, you know, a person, who they are, right? They are who they are. Why is it that we get disconnected with our own selves so easily, and we need all of this just in order for us to connect back with ourselves again? Like what?
Yeah.
Like this is connection is hard and disconnection is so easy. How does that work and why?
Yeah. See, the experiences that we go through in our life, and most of it, we are not the ones who begin, or the origin of the experience does not lie within us. If we
Mm,
have had a bad experience within our family, disconnection was a way to cope at that point in time,
mm,
right? As a child, if you're hungry and you're not fed, you can throw a tantrum and get fed. You know that, right? That was the way
mm,
to cope. That was the way to get food at that time. You grew up, but you keep doing that. You throw a tantrum. You can afford to not to, right? But you learned that as a coping, as a practice to get what you want. And letting go of these things are painful because we have to go to the point of pain and say that, okay, that was needed then, but I don't need it now. I needed it as a
mm,
boy, but now I'm a man. That is where trauma healing comes, but that is
mm,
also where spiritual trauma healing ends, spiritual healing begins, so that the essence of the trauma healing can be sustained inside of you.
mm. Yeah. And is that why you've um brought the two together in your course,
Yeah.
trauma therapy and yogic
I brought
healing?
them together basically because, Anisha, when I went through, well, a bad experience in my life, which pushed me into getting therapy. The
Mm,
spiritual practice that I had was the backbone for me. So
mm,
I have never undergone one-on-one therapy.
mm,
For me, this spiritual practice and then learning these tools of trauma healing
mm,
and applying it on myself. And I could do it because I had a very strong spiritual practice. And that
mm,
is how I could kind of glean the two together and come at it from a place of strengthening that connection that you establish through trauma healing, strengthening that with the spiritual practices. And that would be what this course is all about.
mm. Um, Earlier you mentioned, doing japa or chanting, and that how that's non-negotiable. So is that also a form of a bhakti yoga that you practice? And then can you tell us a little more about japa? Like what happens? What's the energy that gets invoked? And then can people focus on that also as a form of healing or stability? And
Yeah. See, that comes from a deeper practice of being at a place where everybody is doing this practice and you get initiated into the practice. Okay. And
okay,
there are many mantras. There are thousands of mantras that are that people are initiated into. And who gets what mantra is basically not decided by them, but it is
okay,
more like you have your teachers who are constantly interacting with you, mentoring you, and they see that you have a particular personality. And then
right.
based on that, you are given a mantra. So
Mm,
it's a mantra that will help you go further into your practice because it is aligned with the kind of person that you are.
mm,
Okay. And these are not just deeply spiritual practices, but it's also deeply personal practices. So when we are given
mm.
a mantra to say it is for you, this is how you practice it, this is how you do it. But beyond that, don't give it out to others. Don't keep yapping about it. No, that's not what this is all about.
Mm.
This is for your
So
private
this
person.
is different. This is different from how a person say chants, like say in a temple or even at home. So that is different than this. Okay. Mm,
That's different from this.
mm,
The
mm,
chant that you are talking about probably here are the hymns or the kirtans that we, yeah,
mm.
and
Yeah.
the longer mantras and the prayers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Mm,
is one form of bhakti yoga, and that is done in a
mm,
community. And what happens there is when you are chanting, these are all energy encased words. Sanskrit words is what you use.
mm.
chant. And when a bunch of
Yeah.
us chant together, we are invoking that energy there. And that's a deeply spiritual and deeply moving experience. So if even if it's just one person chanting and everybody else is listening, you would realize that it's a deeply moving experience because the words are put together in a way to bring that out in you.
Mm. This brings me to Mahamrityunjay mantra,
Yeah.
Rudrāni. I think I asked you before as well. How, like, what can you talk a little bit about the energy of the mantra and how, it actually does impact one's health? And generally, I've heard or I've grown up, hearing people chanting that, especially when people are in dire situations. So just a little bit, about that if you want to.
Yeah. So let's take the situation itself. What would be a dire situation for you?
I mean, what I have heard about is mostly around health issues, people really suffering, or people really maybe say somebody is bedridden, and then, this chant sort of keeps going on in the background.
Hmm. Yeah. So that brings me to what are the forms of suffering in our life? Okay, and that also is
Mm,
classified in yoga and Sankhya. So
right.
one of the main form of suffering in our life is something we call abhinivesha. Okay, which
Mm,
is fear in general or fear of death, to be specific. Okay.
mm,
And when we are going through a health issue, if it is a minor one, we will be up and about doing our stuff, right? When we are bedridden with the flu, we know that on the third day we can be up and about. Okay.
mm.
If it is a bigger thing, we know that, okay, maybe a week, then I will be up and about. Then nobody is chanting the Mahamrityunjay mantra, right?
Okay.
You will rather
Mm,
read a book in your bed or you will go through one of those series that you wanted to binge watch. But the Mahamrityunjay mantra comes when you feel that, oh, this could probably not end well, right? The suffering that
ah,
is going through, probably this could be bad. And
mm,
what is the gravest form of suffering that we all are worried about or scared of is death, right? So Abhinivesha is the fear of death. And
mm,
Mahamrityunjay mantra, like the name suggests or name speaks, is something that works on the fear of death.
mm,
It's not working on death, but it's working on the fear of death. All right.
mm,
And the moment you let go of fear, then you start healing. All
right.
of us have to die, right? Death has to come, right?
Mm,
But the fear of death is something that is even bigger than death. So
mm.
Mahamrityunjay mantra is a beautiful mantra which helps us let go of fear, any kind of fear, the biggest of fears in our life being the fear of death.
Then isn't that true for all sorts of fears in our life? When the fear of what is lacking is gone, then the situation starts healing itself.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Hmm.
Either you should know how to let go of the fear of lack. It's always the fear of lack that makes us suffer, even before the lack
Hmm.
hits us. Okay. So
Exactly. Yeah.
the moment we know how to work with the fear or how to let go of the fear, we have let go of the lack.
Hmm. Wonderful. And then just diving a little deeper on the various, I think you said there are various types of sufferings.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can like there are various type. I can just give you the four main sufferings
Yeah.
that we go through. Okay, in Sanskrit, this is what we call avidya. Ignorance is the main suffering that we go through. And what is the ignorance? Ignorance that our center of power lies outside of us. That is our ignorance. The essence of all that we are, all that we need in the world lies within us. So that ignorance is one major suffering. Then two other sufferings are called raga and dvesha, which is raga is desire and dvesha is repulsion or pushback. Okay,
Of
of anything, desire of anything, and pushing against anything. Dvesha is repelling. Okay, so
protesting,
not protesting exactly, but saying that dislike.
dislike.
Okay, so
Mm.
raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, I said, fear of death, and avidya, ignorance. These are four major sufferings that we go through in our life. And why
Mm.
are, I mean, see, you see manifestation exercises, these are all aimed at desire. But then
Mm.
here is a science which say we need to let go of desire. And
Mm.
why is it said that we need to let go of desire? Is because this practice is about cultivating contentment.
Mm.
Okay. And contentment and desire, though it sounds to be in the same basket, they don't go together.
Mm.
Desire goes together with want. Contentment goes with need. And the more you practice contentment, as per our Eastern spirituality, I will always have everything that I need because I'm connected to the eternal source. And because I'm connected to the eternal source, I do not need to hoard. Hoarding
Mm.
is a
Mm.
burden. I need to carry this around if I hoard. Okay, so
Mm.
that is how we differentiate desire and
Mm.
contentment. And I
Mm.
have seen in my own life that the more easy or the with more ease that I practice contentment, I really have all that I need.
Mm. Mm.
Okay. And dvesha is this thing of saying, I do not like this person. I do not. I do
Mm.
not like this. I do not like that. I do not like capitalism. I do not like this. You know, we really have a long list, a laundry list of those things that we do not like. And it says that the more you are practicing that, dvesha or dislike is suffering today, whereas raga or
Mm.
desire is suffering tomorrow. Why do you need to suffer? You focus on your contentment and
Mm.
you change yourself and then offer that change to the world in terms of service. Then you do not need to focus on dislike. You can actually focus on what you really like, which is contentment. So
Mm.
these are broad stroke suffering that is spoken about in yoga and Sankhya.
Mm. Just one question, Rudhrani. Desire, I feel like if one thing goes, there's something else. Even if that is something that you need, right? How do you make peace with not desiring? Because if there is no dynamism, if there is nothing to look forward to in that sense, then can the person keep going? Or are you saying that there is whatever we need, that essence of what we need inside, so we can actually tap into that and feel the
Yeah,
feeling already before getting that?
yeah,
Mm.
that's exactly what I'm saying as to, you know, you are so connected to this eternal source for whatever you need that it will always be provided. The condition being, do not go around hurting others and spreading hatred. It will always be provided.
Mm.
Love is what holds all of these things together.
Mm.
Let that
Right.
flow to the world. And when you do that, everything that you need will be provided. Is there a
Mm.
problem with our connection?
Yeah, and you just froze and then you came back. Yeah. So going back to your course, Rudhrani, it's for 7 months, right? How long did it take you to create this course? And then, what was the process? If you want to tell us a little bit about, how you came about creating and, producing it.
Yeah. Okay, for me, the course creation is the content creation itself has been an ongoing practice.
Go ahead. Sorry,
Are
I,
you
I paused it, but then came back. Yeah.
okay? So the course content itself is culled from this like past decade and a half of my practice, and deeper learning of all these scriptures that I'm talking to you about. And why 7 months? It's because it's a practice pathway. It is not just about theoretical learning. If it is theoretical learning, it's going to take you a few years to
Forever.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are going to have culled out practices or tools that we can use for ourselves and we can use for others. And these are behavioral tools, these are meditation tools, this will be, and also like exercise tools, all kinds of things which are culled out from our Eastern spirituality. And not just Eastern spirituality, right? Like I mentioned to you earlier, when you, why don't we hear about an Indian psychology, but then we do hear about a lot of Indian philosophy and spirituality, right?
Right.
It is simply because in all our Eastern darshanas, like I said, it's a 360 degrees way of existence. Okay. And body, mind, senses, these are not separated, these are together. So within the darshana itself, you have philosophy, you have psychology, you have practices that you can do for spirituality. You have all of it right there.
Yeah. So then, like you said, Eastern philosophy, but when it comes to yoga, is it, I mean, how, like, can it be mixed with, different other practices out there, which could be Western philosophy, and, like, I mean to say that how, like, can one do or practice yoga and also be practicing, other faiths, other religions, and how does it
Yes,
blend together, or does it
yes.
blend? Yeah.
Yoga is not a religious practice, huh? Yoga is a practice for your own well-being. Okay, it's a practice for a perfect way of existing in the world, perfect existence. Okay, so you can have your whatever religion you are following and still come back to a practice of well-being, right? You can have antibiotics even if you are of whatever religion, right? So this
Right.
is a practice of well-being that yoga is.
That anybody can do
At
anywhere.
anybody, yeah.
And then, so anybody out there, if they want to, come to that, like you said, that essence or that source within, they can do that through yoga. They can learn, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Um, I had a question from one of our viewers about, uh, I mean, the question was, who am I? If you can explain, or, what is your um thinking behind this question?
I would say I'm God. Okay.
Mm.
And why I say that is, like I said, we connect with our own essence. I said that, right? So when we connect with our own essence, we are going on a journey.
Mm.
And till we reach the last destination, we are always answering the question, what am I?
Mm.
Okay. The last place is where we really say that, who am I? And who am I? I am the spirit. And why do you say that? See, I have a body, I have my senses, I have a mind. Now, I'm breathing. There is a spirit inside of me. That is what the breath is all about. Okay.
Mm.
When I die, the body remains, right? It becomes whoever is left behind's responsibility to get rid of the body. The body remains. But
Right.
what is gone out is the spirit.
Mm.
Now we can wait for death to recognize the spirit, or we can do it right here. Yoga is the practice of doing it right when we are here. And the most
Mm.
beautiful experience of knowing who am I, I am this spirit that flows through this body, or I'm this divine spirit who is having a human experience for this many number of years. When you do that, the first and the most beautiful thing that happens is that you do not have the fear of death anymore.
Mm.
And who am I is a journey. You reach there. Like I said, those 8 limbs, samadhi, then there are layers of samadhi. And finally, you reach that place where you get that very clear answer of who am I. And when you get that answer, there is no other destination that you want to go to. You really do not even want to come back here. Okay. And
Mm.
do any work at all. You don't want to do
Right.
it. But then there are people who have gone and experienced that who am I, and still they come back and do some work, like
Mm.
like you have the book, right? The yellow book.
Yeah.
The yeah. So the
Yoga
yellow,
philosophy,
yeah, the
Patanjali.
yoga
Mm.
philosophy. The person who wrote that book found that answer to who am I, or he was enlightened at the age of 26.
Mm.
Okay, and then he was asked by his teacher to write some books or give this out to the world. And this book is, I think, the first one that he has written after the experience. And when he comes back, or when he came back to write the book, the only thing that he did for the next few years was to write the book, no other karma.
Oh,
Because
you
he did
said when he came back from the
the experience
experience.
of enlightenment. Yeah.
Mm.
And he wrote the book. He wrote a few other books, like amazing stuff that he has written, but that's all that he did. He completed the work and then he said, enough, this is it.
Mm.
Okay, so yes, definitely who am I gets answered, but that's not an answer for me to give to somebody. It's an experience, and this is the path to that experience.
Wow. This is such a fulfilling answer. I was hoping we would end here, but I still have a few questions.
So absolutely, yeah.
So, when you say mind, body, soul, and bringing it all together, can you tell us in terms of an experience, how does one experience all of these in one, uh, one place, or like feel it within themselves? Because of course the body is there, we know the mind is also there, and we kind of are aware of the soul. But like you said, instead of dying and realizing you are the soul or you are, God, I think you already answered, but like just a more, maybe a simpler version of how mind, body, soul are, one.
Okay, the soul is the subtlest bit of you, right? You know the mind, you have not seen it, but you can sense it functioning, right?
Mm,
Now the body, you see it. The body is the grossest part of you.
mm,
Okay. And so when I say that experiencing it or going into that territory of subtle experience, there are practice pathways that I can take you on, or a meditation practice that I can take you on, where you shed and you start with an experience, and there are two people in the experience. Let's say it's an experience that's very, very important or valuable to you. And then you start shedding one thing at a time. First, you shed the other person, then you shed yourself, you just remain with the experience, you shed your body, you shed the experience. There is a definite pathway through which I can guide you. It takes about 20-25 minutes of meditation, and
mm,
I can take you on a path where you can have a glimpse of that sentient being inside of you.
mm. So is it an out of body experience looking at
And
yourself? Okay,
no, not really, not really.
okay.
Okay,
Mm,
so but the only way, it's a non-dual experience. It's an experience of integration, but the only
mm,
we as human beings can reach there is through duality, is through
mm,
is through a seer and a seen. That's the only way you can reach there. Okay,
mm,
and then we will be able to have the glimpse of that sentient you for a few
mm.
moments. Okay, so that's a
Uh,
practice pathway. So I'm not doing that right here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Also, one more question we had was about Tantra. How is
Mm.
Tantra related to yoga, and what is it?
Tantra is not related to yoga at all. Okay.
Okay, okay,
Yeah. Tantra, the word itself means technique.
okay.
Yoga is about moksha. It's about that liberation, that freedom that you find from knowing who you really are. Okay. Whereas Tantra is about all the energies in the world, the subtle energy, the gross energy. These are techniques to garner those energies.
Mm,
And Tantra practices is not aligned to any philosophy. These are practices. That's very important to understand. Tantra are techniques which are gleaned from yoga, Sankhya, Vedantic philosophies, or Veda,
mm,
Vedic philosophies or non-philosophies. It doesn't matter from where, but these are techniques to harness the energies. And
mm.
sometimes gross energies, sometimes subtle energies of life and death. All of it can be harnessed with tantric practices.
So when there is a negative connotation to Tantra, people get scared, but I feel like it is very powerful, right? And if one does know how to practice or whatever it is, then there is no negative or positive to the experience itself or the practice
Yeah.
itself, right?
It's like I said, Tantra is technique and it is about energy. So, like you said, power and energy, they go together, right? So, it's anything about energy and it's anything, these are techniques for using the energy whichever way they want or, whichever
Mm,
way they want to. And negative and positive, life and death are all connotations there. Okay.
right.
And many times in West, Tantra is associated with sex. You know,
Yeah, that
yeah,
too. Mm,
that too.
mm,
But then, well, there is a small part. Like I said, asana is just a small part of yoga. There is a
yoga.
small part, but when the tantric sex is something which is after a lot of purification processes. There are many, many
Mm,
steps before that. But
yeah,
like you pull out asana, the physical practice, wear a pair of tights and sports bra, and then you call it yoga, whatever you do. The same is the thing with the tantric sex.
Tantra. Mm,
Whatever works, whatever sells is what is being pulled out and shown, which
mm,
is unfortunate, which is sad, but well, it is what it
mm.
is.
Yeah, yeah. And then my last question, Rudhrani, before you want to, tell us a little more or like parting thoughts about your course, is that what is a yogi or a yogini? I think you mentioned when I messaged you that you are a mere yogi, did you say, or yogini? So what does that mean? What, in essence, what does it mean?
Someone who practices yoga or the various limbs of yoga, that's it.
That's
And
it.
it's a fulfilling practice and you keep getting more and more fulfilled as you keep advancing in the practice.
And is there a baby yogi and an advanced yogi in the process, or is it just the more one practices, the more,
there is
one?
see, there is no linear advancement like that. Like I said, there are 8 limbs. You can start the practice from any limb, any of
Oh,
the limbs. Okay.
okay.
So there's nothing linear there. Each one can flow into the other, but eventually yoga will touch all parts of your existence if you remain disciplined. That is,
Mm.
that's what I would call a yogi or a yogini.
Okay, okay. And then, Rudhrani, why don't you just tell us just once more about, the beautiful course that you're coming up with?
See, the course that I've come up with is like I have done a bunch of certification and diploma courses, starting with past life regression therapy and inner child healing and family constellation, and a lot of them. And then I've also always had this spiritual practice. Okay. And
Yeah.
many of these trauma healing courses use facets of spirituality. You pull them out and you use it there. Like, for instance, you do a family constellation work, you do the constellation, you do the whole transaction reversal or whatever needs to be done in that particular constellation. There is a point where you reach and you said, now I say yes to my life force.
Mm.
Okay. It is said, it is done, and you move on.
Yeah.
Now, right. But what is that life force? So if you've done all the giving back, all the family imbalances have been rebalanced now, and you have reclaimed your own life force, then probably it would leave a much larger and a sustained impact with you if you know what is the source of that life force and how to stay connected there, so
Yeah.
that you do not keep falling into the rut from where you picked yourself up from. Okay. So the
Mm.
spiritual therapy tools are the ones that plugs that gap,
Right.
right? When we moved from psychotherapy to trauma therapy and all the spiritual parts of trauma therapy, we have taken a step from saying that, okay, not just the mind, but the mind and the nervous system. All right.
Mm.
Now, this course is going to say not just the mind and the nervous system, but the mind, the nervous system, and your spirit.
Mm.
Okay, so this is going to plug that hole. And I have I have taken like almost 15 years to put the tools together. And these
Yeah.
are that I have kind of tested out with most of my clients.
Mm.
And they have vouched for it, that they have experienced that movement within them, and
Mm.
they like to go back to this movement with those practices or with those meditation techniques, or whatever we have used in the
Mm.
1:1 sessions. And like I said, I as a person, this was the backbone, this was the foundation on which trauma healing happened for me, and because of
Right.
which it's a more sustained presence in my life. I have never slid back,
Mm.
right? And it's very important that when we do trauma healing, we do not slide back to those
Yeah.
painful experiences again. This is
Mm.
what is going to hold your healing together. This is a foundation. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's why I thought that it was time to come up with a course for my fellow therapists, and also for clients who I have worked with, as a DIY techniques that they
Yeah.
can back home. And so the deeper trauma healing, of course, you need therapists, to sit across and do the work. But this can be something that can sustain that healing for you on a day-to-day basis. And a bunch
Mm.
of tools. I'm looking at pulling in tools from Bhagavad Gita, from the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, from the yoga philosophy, and from Sankhya, from all these places together. And
Mm.
bunch of tools which I use almost on a daily basis. And also I use when, like I said, when I get triggered. So if
Mm.
it's for me, it can work for anybody. And that is the thought behind coming up with this course.
And then, Rudrani, is it only for healers and therapists who are working with clients, or anybody else can also sign up for the
It's
course?
for anybody,
It's
anybody
for
who
anybody.
wants to experience spiritual therapy.
Mm. Perfect.
Spiritual therapy doesn't
Wow.
really mean therapy of the spirit. It means connecting with your spirit so that the therapy starts on its own. So from that
Ah.
point of view is why I say it's a self-healing or a do-it-yourself kind of a course.
Yeah. So when you say do it yourself, this means that if a therapist is working with the client then learns how to do it as
Yeah,
well for
yeah.
themselves. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Wow, this was amazing. I loved all the answers, and I'm sure that everybody will enjoy the depth that we went through. And thank you so much, Rudrani. Anybody who's interested in the course, your information will be in the description, so they can reach out to you. And yeah, and anything else you want to say?
No, that's about it. And because we're going to roll this course out this
Oh yeah,
month.
sorry. When is it going to start? Yes.
We're going to roll it out in the third week. So the first 3 classes we will have it in May itself. That's where the whole yoga and Sankhya theory is going to be discussed and taught. And and I have already done with the information session. So for the people who are listening to this podcast and want to have an information session, we will have a separate special session only for them, which we can do on the 19th of May.
Which is a Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you are Atlantic time, right?
Yeah, we are Atlantic time. And then we roll the course out the week after that.
So the week of 26th. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. And yeah, now that you talked about days and all, so how will it be? Will it be like a course every week, or how does it work for people who want to know?
We will have 2 classes in a month. So once everybody signs up and once we have an intro session, we will decide on which day to do these classes. It will be only 2 hours each class. And then the second month onwards, we will also have one tutorial, which is for bringing in questions and bringing in cases, and then we can come together and have a go at those.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Rudrāni. I hope to bring you on again with us. There's just so much to talk about, and I'm sure we can bring up, something more interesting and more, where we can delve deeper into another topic.
Absolutely.
So yeah. Thank you again, and
Always
bye,
a pleasure
folks.
talking to you. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.